to allow you to go in and you can pick your themes, you can pick your fonts. I don't know if they have they do have Comic Sans there. Yeah, I'm going to change the boost interface. Anyways, but then the whole idea, you can set your colors, you set your fonts, not Comic Sans. I'm just, sorry, I didn't mean to trigger you.
I'm proud that you know this. I'm beaming that you understand this is a way to tease me.
Of course.
It triggers me on so many levels. Just ding, 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 ding. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Power Platform Boost podcast, your timely source of Power Platform news and updates with your hosts, Nick Dolman and Ulrikke Akkerbeck. Hi, Nick. How are you doing?
Hey, Ulrikke. How's it going?
It's December, so it's...
So do you have your 6 minutes of daylight per day? Is it that time of year?
Not even that. So we all go to work and complete darkness, and then when we crawl out of the building it's still complete darkness because there was a glimmer of daylight somewhere in there. But yeah, so tried to get by, but people that know me well will know that November is always the hardest month for me, and this year I actually had a pretty decent November, let's put it like that. No major fallbacks or anything, but December has been hard. I'm just maxed out at everything. I don't have enough hours in the day. Too much to do, too many fun things, but also every year trying to, because everyone keeps talking about the calm and the relaxing and the enjoyment of Christmas. 30 something, and I still haven't really found a way to get that. And I know also talking to other people that I know that, that happens after your kids grow up and become big. So I don't know, maybe it's just a phase of life that I'm in, or find it's more stress than it's nice at this point. So yeah, that's where I'm at. And also that the kind of the show notes reflect it, because I don't even have time to catch up on messages. One of my best friends called me the other day and said, I've called you 3 times. I left you 5 messages. What the f is going on? And then I'm so busy. So, and I haven't put a lot of things in here either. So that's me, just a short. So if anyone else out there feel like they're barely breathing, barely having their head above water, then I'm with you guys. And if we just hold on tight, then one day after another, suddenly it's over. And then maybe I get some calm. I don't know. But how are you?
Good. As you know, the last hour and a half, we've tried to get this recording going. And my office is in a complete disarray of wires and microphones. Like, just nothing was working at all. I just, we kept getting the little Riverside kept going, some other app is using your mic. And I'm like, and then when we finally got the mic working, it wasn't working. One of my other computers half died this morning. One of the videos went, like the video, and then like you, I have work to do. I have project work. I've been traveling the last couple of weeks and trying to get in to do some project work, just trying to get the grip and get some momentum going. And I feel like I'm just spinning my wheels. So I think this is, everybody's, the good, calm Christmas is coming. It's like, I think today is just one of those days, the song from Limp Bizkit. So,
yeah.
But this is going to be the fun part.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Because, at the end of a day, or what feels like weeks for me, at least, this is what I'm looking forward to, sitting down. And I've been loving the fact that you've now taken an hour and a half to get this thing rolling, because that meant I got to catch up on messages and send some emails that I didn't send, and to do that thing and actually get a few more things into the show notes and stuff. So, I mean, thank you. You're actually giving me an hour today. So, and the only thing I have left to do today is to eat steak, drink wine, and have a hot bath. So I'm going to be okay.
Awesome.
So yeah. Right. So let's get this baby on the road. I think we're going to be jumping a little bit back and forth today, but we can start at the top if you want.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the big things that came up, there was some rumblings on it, I think, from a few folks earlier on, late November. It looked like based on the life updates, there's updates coming that there was going to be more default Dataverse capacity, which is a big impact for a lot of people. It was interesting. I was talking to one of my clients, they're on the verge of going over their Dataverse capacity. I said, that's actually not too bad. I've worked with people that have gone way over their Dataverse capacity, which means you can't create new environments and a bunch of things. And this was very timely for them. The fact that we now have, so the way it works is if with your very first Power Apps premium license, you get 10 gigabytes of Dataverse capacity. And then each additional license gives you just incrementally a little bit more. And of course, you can buy additional licensing or additional capacity packs. That default now is doubled. So it's now 20 gigabytes. Now, for large enterprise customers, that's barely a drop in the bucket. They probably wouldn't even notice just because they're sometimes buying gigabytes and terabytes of extra Dataverse capacity. But for a lot of our smaller, medium customers, it does make a big difference. That allows them to actually get a couple extra developer environments or give them a little bit more breathing room. So that's a good thing. Conversely, though, is Microsoft making room for more of what I call their capacity tax when they're adding new features and copilots and things which eat up your Dataverse storage kind of without you asking for it. But if you want to have the complete package, or you're forced to have the complete package, you'll need to accept these. So interesting times. Good news. Just one of those things we just got to watch and make sure. So for those of you who thought you're on the edge or running over, you might be wondering why you aren't getting those nag emails anymore. Go into PPAC, check your capacity. You'll probably be pleasantly surprised you're going to be in the green. But also, it's a fishbowl effect too, right? I already, on my own environment, once I got all of this space, I was like, ooh, I can create a bunch more dev environments, test environments. And I filled that up pretty quickly, to be honest. But that's just me. So we'll see.
And it's also the explanation is to give way for the exploration and all the additional strain on the system that comes with Copilot to do agents and all the other AI stuff, right? So it's supposed to be kind of more wiggle room to get all these new features up and running. And of course, it's part of the larger story where Microsoft needs adoption on these things. And Dataverse capacity may be a showstopper for some people. Like you said, because I hit that limit all the time when I can't create new environments because I hit my storage limits. It's, of course, a way to enable more organizations to adopt these new technologies at maybe a lower threshold. But yeah, definitely good news and something to look out for in your own environment. And so, do you want to talk about the new icons? Because that was in here last time, but we didn't really talk about it.
Right. Well, because it was part of it, one of the Ignite things, or maybe even at PowerPlatform conference, we saw these things beginning to bubble up. And then at Ignite, of course, a lot of new products, of course, with the Agent 365, new product, new icon. But then we saw a lot of the other icons updated. Yeah, Microsoft made a whole big deal about this, but it's sort of, they're a little bit more shiny. They're a little bit translucent. That means that all of your decks, all your content you might have created using those old icons now needs to be refreshed and updated. If anybody may have gotten tattoos that are on the Power Platform icons, that's a line that I won't cross. But
you won't
just be
get
aware
a
that
logo or an icon tattooed. Is that what you're telling me?
Not a Power Platform icon, I don't think.
No. So how about if I change the Boost podcast, then what will you do?
Well, that's a democratic decision. So we'll have to vote on that.
We can't change our logo or our name because we have Boost tattooed on our arms.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so yeah,
no,
new icons.
New icons. And yes, I do get that it's cumbersome to update everything, but also on the back of it, the article that we'll put a link to in the show notes describes kind of why it has to change. And it's also, if you look back on the old icons, it's a way to keep in the now. So it's from a UI and a design perspective, it needs to be changed and updates. And we would hate on it the other way if they never updated it. It was old and frumpy and where's the new icons, right? So it's changed and we have to go with it. And I love the new UI and the new icons and the new look and feel with the translucent kind of screen thingies. I really like it. So and also there are guidelines for how to use them and there are links for where to download them if you want to use them yourself, especially for Power Platform. There's a link where you can go and download all of them and transparent backgrounds and everything. Yep, absolutely.
Cool.
I have a link in here that I thought was from you. So I, of course, haven't looked into it. Yeah, so it's sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, it's actually a link from Griffin Lickfeldt, which on the back of Ignite announcements, made a guide for where to build your agents, because we now have, and I have also talked about this in various different audiences, when you have Copilot Lite and Copilot Full, and you have Foundry agents, it's hard to know. It's the same story as when we got Power Automate and we had Power Automate flows, right? Cloud flows, and we had Logic apps, and then we had or Azure functions. When do you use what? It's always the same thing that comes back to when you got Power Apps and Modern apps. When do you use what? And this is also a guide to where to start with your agent. There's a simple flow chart also that we showed the last episode that you can use to guide your way through the decision process. So are you going to share your agent with other people in your organization? Is it going to do some heavy lifting? Is it going to need access to a lot of different documents and SharePoint areas and other connectors? There's a myriad of different choices that you make that decides where you should create your Copilot studio or your agent. So that's a very nice article, and you can look into it, and the links will be in the show notes.
Yep. Good work.
Yep. So on the topic of agents, do you want to do the Dataverse SDK for Python?
Yeah, this was an announcement, the PowerPlatform client, Dataverse client for Python. It was the blog articles by Paul Liew, who is a program manager at Microsoft. What I like about Paul is, so if you're in these sessions with people from Microsoft, and I was in a session with him, it was actually an MVP summit, and it was very interactive. What I liked about Paul is when you ask a question, he actually wrote it down in his notebook. He got your name, and you could tell that he was really engaging. So good, Paul, keep it up. We love your work. But basically, there was an article and also a YouTube video around using Python in Dataverse. And this is something that we have talked about before. And now it's an open source Dataverse SDK for Python, announced in public preview at Ignite 2025. We see some hints coming about that. And it's a good video, kind of walks through about how to kind of set it up, go through it, how you can do like read, write, create, update capabilities within Dataverse. So we have plugins. We talked about plugins and flows and everything else, but here is another way that we can interact with Dataverse for using Python. So those folks that have been using Python before, which I know barely anything about Python. So it was a really cool little video on about who should use it, talk about data scientists, developers, and makers, and a way to create some other automations and things like that using Python skills, notebooks, VS Code, part of your pipelines as well. So yeah, check out the link, check out the video. I had hoped to have some time to play with this, but I haven't yet. Because I think this could open some doors where places where we might have used like either Power Automate or flows to update data. This could be a good way to potentially, as a way to update data in Dataverse very easily, setting stuff up like, testing data, that kind of stuff, or even just data migration. So yeah, good info there.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the topic of, because you mentioned pipelines, so let's dive into that a little bit, because I found an article from David Wyatt. We haven't talked about David Wyatt in a while, so it's about how high time that we shared one of his articles. And it intrigued me because I'm doing sessions on pipelines. So this was fixed pipelines. And I was like, what? Fixed pipelines? And I think he meant he fixed pipelines.
Yes.
Because it's broken. And he's right. And in true style, it kind of goes through his reasoning that it is at the time when PowerPlatform pipelines came to be, it was a very good addition. It was very, very much needed. And as anything, you give the people a simple tool to move solutions through environments. And then, of course, as soon as you give them the teeny weeny little finger, they want to take the whole hand. So where is my this and where is my that and where is it, and all the requirements keep coming. So they tried really hard over the last few years to reach that potential that this new capability has, and he also gives them kudos for doing a good job. But of course, there's still these little niche things that doesn't work, and David has created a way to work around it. So and he says so as well, this is a workaround. It's in 3 key facts that it works on. So it has to do with delegated service accounts. They can create their own connections. You can share connections with them. And solutions, and it creates a config, a JSON in the solution that helps with this. So it's a really complicated process. I'm not going to go through all of it, but I know that the main pain point that he's addressing is that if you create a pipeline, a developer creates the pipeline for the service principal, but it has to be an owner of the service principal in Azure to run it. And that's, of course, a security issue. We haven't had that as a security issue in the projects that we've been on because it hasn't been that strict, but it's, of course, a security issue. And also, if it uses the developer connections, they have to kind of have that connection in production or in test as well, which isn't good. So this actually addresses some of that, which is really good. And then also, and I've lost it. So if you just give me 2 seconds and I'll bring up another, yes, here we go. So let me see if I can get to this. It was another post by where he also talked about, did you see it? Did I put a link to it? No.
I don't see that. I did see the post somewhere.
Yeah, I was meant to put a link in the show notes, but then you suddenly emerge. Here it is, PowerPlatform Pipelines OAuth for configuration app. So what Matt did is he created a model-driven app in the pipeline host environment on top of the pipeline configuration app, or not on top of, but in addition to. And what it allows you to do is it has 3 tables, and you have the deployment stages, you have the platform connections, and then you have the pipeline connections. And you can then connect everything, and then you set it up, and then it allows, I think it uses Power Automate Flow to actually then update and reset your connections on the way in. So this is another way to kind of mitigate and close that gap, because he also talks about the gap in the current setup where you can't really do everything. So I'm going to put that also in here. And
that's cool.
Yeah. So then you guys can check it out. And also I'm doing sessions on pipelines and both in Tallinn. Yes. So I will make sure to kind of go through all of this as well in that session.
Yeah. It was fun because I did some training last week and we talked about pipelines, and they were already, and we get into this, sometimes this conversation about using Azure DevOps, the build tools versus pipelines. A lot of it kind of comes down to the size of your projects. For the big enterprise projects, obviously Azure DevOps is kind of the way to go because you got the source code stuff going there, your different environments and approvals. But what I like about Power Platform Pipelines, yes, it doesn't quite do everything, but it's much more accessible to, I think, people that are already making Power Apps and working within the Power Platform. So a lot of it comes down to who is going to end up owning this process long term, and what tools are they comfortable with, and using that to deploy solutions and things like that. So I'm a big fan of Power Platform Pipelines. I've used it. I've fought with it. We've had our frustrations with it, but overall, compared to exporting solutions and re-importing them, or even trying to pack together some PowerShell scripts that I used to do in the olden days, Power Platform Pipelines has come a long way. And it's really cool to see like guys like David show how to extend it with like Power Automate and Matt Collin-Jones in terms of building an app, because it is sitting in Dataverse. So it is all accessible to be extended as well. So kudos to you guys for doing this. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to your session in Tallinn as well to learn more about this.
Yeah, me too. And also I see in larger organizations, these two things work side by side. So you'll have the core team push or not push, but deploy their solution using the DevOps tools, right? They have full control. It's all connected everywhere, and you have full control of it. But then suddenly, maybe you have a citizen dev environment where you have different apps, and then they have their own environments. They create their own apps, and then need an easy way to kind of put their stuff into production. And platform pipelines comes really handy because it's like you said, it's their language, it's their interface, it's what they do, they're used to it. It's not so dangerous, doesn't feel so breaking the internet if you do something wrong with it, and it's a comfortable UI for them to use. And in that space, it really works. And also it then enables them to not having to have access to all these developer tools and actually pull changes. Because what I see more and more when we're out there and looking at a big kind of architectural, and especially organizations that have a bit of a legacy system that comes from the old days, the idea of pulling changes is kind of new. It's still a push from the central government, the central IT, to the different branches or whatever it is that we're talking about. But the idea of pulling, when you need an update, were you ready to update, or are you ready to grab the latest thing that you pull it yourself? That is kind of a new way for me that I see that pipelines comes really handy. So yeah, that was just my 2 cents on that.
Cool.
Cool. So moving on, I did not want to miss the modern theme designer. When I saw this,
Yes.
This is so cool. And do you understand how this works? Because I'm a bit kind of, what now?
So this is another thing of Nick's massive to-do list of things to try out. And so the
Learn
idea
the guitar,
here,
learn web development, and then also understand how the modern theme designer works.
yes, in that order.
In that order.
So the modern it is a solution. Like, you can download it from GitHub. We'll have the links. You install it, and then basically you have this new app called Modern Theme Designer in your apps. So again, building model-driven apps to control your Dataverse environment. So kind of segueing, seeing with the tools that Matt Collin-Jones and David created. So this is another tool. I think it was created by Microsoft, because it is.
But it's also not an official release. This is sample code and not an official release. So just keep in mind. Right.
Yes, that's true. And basically, there is ways already to update the theme, but it's basically you have to go in and mess around with the code and stuff. This provides a user interface to allow you to go in and you can pick your themes, you can pick your fonts. I don't know if they have Comic Sans. Oh, they do have Comic Sans there. Yeah, I'm going to change the boost interface. Anyways, but then the whole idea, you can set your colors, you set your fonts, not Comic Sans. I'm just, sorry, I didn't mean to trigger you.
I'm proud that you know this. I'm beaming that you understand this is a way to tease me.
Of course.
It triggers me on so many levels.
So yeah, so this is something that's pretty cool. I'm going to download this and apply, because that's the thing, right? We talk about, everybody kind of talks about how model-driven apps are boring. They all look the same. And that's true. That's the power of them, right? I've always said in my training, and people have taken my training before, I'll say, if you know how to use one model-driven app, you know how to use them all. But taking a look at some model-driven apps I've seen that I've sort of gone into projects with the little puzzle pieces, and I know that triggers Sarah, and you see kind of the boring layouts and whatever, but then you go see someone who spent some time in putting the theme and the layouts. So for example, for CPPS, we're using the same app that they're using for Color Cloud and Tall and a few others, which is a model-driven app written by Matt, or developed by Matt's. He's got icons, he's got little emojis on the tabs. The layout's really nice. The color scheme is really nice. It's a little, I don't think it's such a little thing, but it makes a big difference in terms of using the apps. They look professional. They look polished. So having the theme designer there where you can kind of align your fonts and your colors to maybe your own personal branding, kind of gets your users, it's a little thing, but it gets their users a little bit more, I think, just a good emotional response from using the app itself. So yeah, definitely a really cool little tool to check out.
Yeah, and it also has to do with mental load and recognition. So when we scan user interfaces, our eyes are trained to look for certain cues for what to do. So a green button will be accept, a red button will be cancel, for instance. And I know that Dynamics isn't really, a model-driven app isn't really a place where you can play around with these things as much. So I know that a lot of the time this will be presented as, put your own branding theme on this. So good for users, but also what you should be doing with it is enhancing the user experience to make it easier for the users to make the right decisions, to not have to remember everything, or to guide them through a process, or to guide their eyes in the right direction, to alleviate some of the noise, because model-driven apps can be pretty noisy when you have a huge customer card, for instance. It can be a lot of information to take in. And so information hierarchy in terms of importance can be, you can use theming for that. So you can enhance some bits and then downplay some other bits to help the eye to focus on the right thing and to kind of guide your eyes to the right perspective. So there's a lot of different techniques that you can use. And I think this is a very unique way. And yeah. So, and also with the emojis and the icons that Nick and Matt is using in his application, It also helps with recognition because it's using emojis, the same emojis for the same things. So have hotel bookings. Hotels will have the same emoji every time. That helps you to see that more quickly. So when you're scanning the page for hotel information, your eye will catch that emoji quicker than it will catch the word hotel. And that's why icons has been so very much used, is used in UI so much, is because our eyes catches it quicker. So it's not all just it's not all just because it looks nice. It does really have a huge impact on your users and offloads them in a very good way.
Yeah,
offloads the load on them and offloads them. You're not uploaded.
I know. Yes, it just makes it gooder.
Okay, so something else that makes everything gooder is dancing with CRM and HTMX with Power Pages. Did you put this in there, or is this mine?
I certainly did. So this is from Oleksandr Olashyn, who is very timely because I have a couple projects where just the out-of-the-box forms or the out-of-box lists just don't cut it. Yes, you can do a lot with them. You can manipulate them. You can add a little searching metadata. But at the end of the day, it's just, you need to go a little bit extra. So then you start building your own custom templates with Liquid. We're talking about Power Pages here. So Oleksandr has whether he stumbled upon or whether he uses this and finally blogged about it, something called HTMX. Now, HTMX it's a small library. It's basically, it's a JavaScript library, but it allows you to write less JavaScript by extending HTML, therefore the name HTMX, and allows you to have components that they can react to events, they can send HTTP requests, perform CSS transitions, and much more. So they actually have an official website that he has a link to in his blog, but he showed an example of mixing Liquid and HTMX to build a kind of dynamic list form for a web page, which I'm definitely going to be using on a couple projects going forward because we do need to actually address some of those particular requirements from our customers. And again, this talks about user interface. One thing about model-driven app user interfaces, but of course with Power Pages, you're now dealing with people, your external stakeholders. So you need to make sure that user interface is very accessible, very easy to use, very easy to get the information. So yeah, it looks good. Great post, Oleksandr, and definitely going to be using this in projects going forward.
Yeah, it's a very neat trick for sure. And then I also saw, and then when you've built your forms, then you can also then use some new tricks for form validation. Because I
think this was maybe it was both of us, but it was Valentin Gasenko.
Yep.
Was it mine or yours?
I think it's yours. But I looked into it and it looks fantastic.
Yeah. So basically it's a client library, and basically he put this article together about validation. And if you're using the out-of-the-box forms and Power Pages, when you have those validation messages, they look a little ugly. They're kind of off the top of the screen and you're trying to work below. Mm-hmm. Basically, with this library, you could actually make the whole thing look a lot more, again, what you said, user experience, right with the particular field, highlighting it, making it very much like a more modern user interface that we're used to in other sites. So basically for required fields. Now you may think, okay, this is just another little thing. But again, for Power Pages, these are the types of things that, we can build some pretty powerful websites using Power Pages and get everything going. These are the things that sometimes are a bit of a time suck, because the customer will look at this going, can you make the required fields look a little bit better? And then of course you're going in, you're mucking around with JavaScript and you're trying to do little tricks and stuff to make it look better. So again, this is another library that's just basically going to cut down the time and make it a lot easier and make it look a lot better.
Yeah. Absolutely. Is there any trick? And I know this is one of those things that the UI guys, the front enders, and when we've entered into Power Pages project, they're always kicking about this because it gives you all the things at the top. So if you have a huge form with all required fields and you don't put any of them in, it creates a list like this long about all the. It's so ugly and frumpy and old. Yeah. And also a little small thing that I wanted to mention, the process maps in Plan for Power Apps is now generally available. And I was like, what process maps in Plans for Power Apps?
Oh, you didn't know?
No, I did not. So then I thought, if I haven't seen this, and probably I'm not alone. So I brought it up, and it's kind of hidden when because pull it up now just to see what I missed. So when you've gone through, you give plan your prompt. So this is in makethepowerapps.com. You go plan designer. We've talked about it a bazillion times, and they keep adding new features to it. And so you give it your prompt. It shows you it goes through the business case and the personas and the different apps you need to build your data model for you. And then when you have kind of the business case and the personas and the kind of the process, you can go in and want to see the process behind it. It creates a process map for you where you can see what the different people or how the process they'll go through and the apps that they'll use and the processes that they'll trigger and all of the things, which is really neat. And it reminded me kind of the Power Automate flow kind of map that we got. And remember when you could see parent and child flows and how they relate to one another finally, and where data goes from one end to the other, and this triggers this flow, and then data flows here. And so that was a really neat map. So I thought it was worth mentioning because I hadn't seen it before.
Yeah, I hadn't realized this was now GA because it was one of those things. It wasn't part of the original Plan Designer when that came out. It got clarity. So the tool is called Plan Designer, but you build plans in Plan Designer, like you create flows in Power Automate. Eliza and I
don't
went through
think
this
it's even called Plan Designer anymore. It's Plan in PowerApps now.
We confirmed before our thing in Vegas, actually. Oh yeah, because we changed our whole deck and then we changed it, and then we asked.
Because when we were in Vienna for European Power Platform conference, everyone's talking about Plan in PowerApps. So it's kind of, all right.
Yeah. It was a whole thread. At the end of the day, everybody knows what it is for building plans. So the process designer was still one of those preview features, and it only would turn on if you click on the little use preview features button. But now it's GA, so it's there for everybody, which is pretty cool. Yeah. And like I said, Plan Designer is progressively getting better all the time. I ran through a demo last week as well with a few folks. And yeah, it was already, because you can actually, this is funny because there was a blog announcement about using plans on existing solutions, which had been around for a few months, but the official blog only got posted last week. So everybody thought this was a new thing. And I'm like, no, it's an older thing. But I guess, like you said, of course, we can't keep on top of everything all the time. So I guess for a lot of people, this was a new thing. And if it's new to you, that's great. So you can try it out and be aware of it.
Yep, absolutely. Also, talking about Ignite and big announcements. At Ignite, as you all know, everyone knows, or actually at PPCC, they declared the Power Platform was dead and then that it had been reborn. So I think this was in Vegas that Victor and Vlad recorded a video, Victor Dantas, about kind of how what the Power Platform looks like when it's reborn. So thinking about Power Platform AI first and what capabilities you have and working with Pro Code. But of course, this is Victor, so he'll have the Power Pages perspective on this, of course. But it's a neat video where Victor shows off kind of how he's working with Power Pages at the moment, which is very code first and very AI first, going from a blank template into a Power Pages site that looks like model-driven app for customer service, which is really neat. So it's a nice conversation between two superpowers in this space, and it's well worth watching. They're both so incredibly professional that all of us look like juniors, which is a lot of fun and very well produced, Vlad. So yeah, definitely worth a checking out. And then we have two more kind of fun posts before we're going to wrap it up. And then also a few other, and then of course this is Victor again. Also I spelled Nathan's name wrong. This is Nathan Rose.
Yes.
Did you see this when he posted it?
I see it, but no one else does. So this is all very entertaining.
You get this firsthand, don't you? Nathan sends you this in private and then you post it, right? So I saw Nathan's post first, where Nathan is playing a very nice, sweet song on the piano. And he talks about how he's using the piano. He's learning to play the piano and he's picking it up because Victor Dantas posted a video of him playing the piano and a Christmas tune. And the topic is, my computer is bugging me. So the question is, does AI now take over more of our creativity? And I have said this a lot of times. I know a lot of people that say this, and Victor also says in this post, if AI could just do our laundry and kind of walk our dogs and feed our kids who want to do ourselves, but do the stupid things around the house that we don't want to do, then we can play the piano, we can make art, we can be creative and take photos and do editings, and we want to do the creative work, right? But AI is taking over more and more of that. Yeah. And I love Nathan's take on it. It's like, so do we allow AI to take over too much of our creativity? And he argues that no, actually, he uses AI to kind of find the chords of the song he wants to play. And then he can freestyle from that. But just getting that foundation in place. And that's the same thing I did when I created a song for my friend for her bachelor party, right? I had ChatGPT create this backbone of a song, just the structure and kind of getting the layout right. And then I filled in all the gaps and all the stories and made it fit. So it's a collaboration. What do you think?
No, I agree. I think using AI as a tool is really, really cool. It could take a lot of the tedious stuff out, even some of the creative aspects. Like, I haven't sat down and written creative writing in a long time, but I also think that I could potentially use it for kind of doing some of the kind of the background stories or kind of fleshing out things, whatever. Again, as long as you're in control, it's like anything else. You're using a tool. So definitely in terms of some creativity, maybe in some aspects, no, you get the more joy of doing everything. But if there's some things that you can kind of utilize it as a tool, like anything else, like you would use a computer to write, or sometimes you would use some drawing program to do some artwork or something like that. AI is just, again, one of those other tools. If you completely turn over the whole creative aspect to AI to create for you, well, then that's what it is. It's AI generated stuff. So you kind of lose that creative edge. It's not really yours anymore. So that's just sort of my take on it. I could see using it for some things, but if you're just letting AI create something for you, like completely vibe-arting it, maybe it produces something good. Maybe, yes, you prompted it, and maybe that's a form of art. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, that's our take on it. So there, Victor, you have your answer from us, and keep the discussion going, because I like having that discussion is so good. So yeah.
Yep.
And that's the end of the episode, and we're going to wrap it up. And also, our next episode is going to be released on December 1st. So we're actually wrapping up the year on the last day of the year. So I'm really looking forward to that. But until then, have a lovely Christmas, and we'll catch you in the new year.
Well, the last episode will be on the last day of the year, so not quite. So happy holidays.
The last day of it. Happy holidays. Okay.
Who knows? Well, it's all good.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. If you like this episode, please make sure you share it with your friends and colleagues in the community. And be sure to leave a rating or a review on your favorite streaming service. That makes it easier for others to find us. Follow us on social platforms and make sure you don't miss a single episode. Thank you for listening to the Power Platform Boost podcast with your host, Ulrikke and Nick Dolman. See you next time for your timely boost of Power Platform news and updates.